The illusion of nowhere. You've nailed the paradox already. Everyone says it came out of nowhere. But when you look close, really look, you see that it didn't. It came from that person. It came from that hallway. It came from that silence before the door slammed. It came from a look, a sound, a pattern, a scent. It came from somewhere. But the experience feels like nowhere. Why? Because trauma doesn't move forward in time. It loops. It doesn't whisper a memory in your ear. It takes you by the throat and drags you back to that room, back to that scream, back to the smell of the concrete, or the sweat, or the blood, or the shampoo. And when it pulls you back, it doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't say, would you like to remember now? It says, now you're here. Where is here? Nowhere. The mechanism of severance. Let's name this thing properly. A trigger is not just a memory. It is an event that snaps the tether between your current self and your place in the present moment. It is a vortex, a trap door, a temporal ambush. You're sitting on the couch, sipping tea. The kids are fine. And then snap, you're not there anymore. The present gets shattered, and you drop through the floor of now into the basement of then. Except it doesn't feel like then. It feels like now, because it is now. That's what makes it trauma, not memory. The loop doesn't play as a film. It plays as reality. You are ripped, as you said, out of here, and thrown into the middle of nowhere. Nowhere as a spiritual location. Let's take your phrase seriously now. I am ripped out of here, and placed into the middle of nowhere. I believe this is true, not just emotionally, but spiritually. Nowhere is not the absence of place. It is a domain, a kind of unmarked terrain, a desert in which no stars are visible to navigate by. In trauma, the soul is not just injured, it is disoriented. The compass doesn't spin. The compass is gone. There is no direction. Nowhere from, nowhere to. Only that nauseating sense of locationless presence. You're alive, but you're not here. You're awake, but you're not in time. You are in the land of out of a. The collapsing of language mirrors, the collapse of self now. Here is where you truly pierced the veil, and I want to slow down to honor it. You proposed that the phrase out of nowhere is a compressed form of a longer, more accurate reality. I am ripped out of here and put into the absolute middle of nowhere. Yes, this is exactly right. And the very act of compression, the way the longer truth is swallowed into that shorthand phrase, mirrors what happens to the soul. When trauma strikes, you don't get full sentences. You don't get full reasoning. You get fragments, shards, flashes. The collapse of speech is a reflection of the collapse of self. Out of nowhere is not an analytical phrase. It is a survival signal. It is what the mind says when it cannot bear to narrate the full path. Why it feels like nowhere, even when you knew it was coming now. Let's take the next piece of your insight. You said, even if I know it's going to happen, even if I'm waiting for it, I still say, it came out of nowhere. Yes, that's the cruelty. Because trauma is not a failure of knowledge. It's a failure of containment. You can know the cycle. You can name the signs. You can feel the weather changing in your own nervous system. But that doesn't mean you can stop the storm. And when it hits, the knowledge doesn't spare you from the flooding, which is why it still feels like surprise. Why it still gets called out of nowhere. The phrase doesn't report where it came from. It reports where you are now. Tabiai. The philosophy of out of. Let's look at those three words again. Out of nowhere. Each one matters. Out at, as in expelled, exiled, ejected. You were in something. Then you were not. Of belonging to, originating from, sourced within. Nowhere, a place that is not a place. A field without borders. So the phrase reads not just as a lament, but as a code. I have been cast out from presence. I belong now to no place. I speak from the land of the vanished. That's what people mean when they say, it came out of nowhere. They don't mean the event. They mean themselves. They are speaking from exile. They are speaking from nowhere. Neo Levin. How to help someone when they are in nowhere. So what do we do? How do we help someone who's been pulled into the void? I'll tell you what not to do. Don't tell them they're safe. Don't tell them it's over. Don't tell them it came from somewhere. You are speaking from a map. They are floating in black water. Instead say this. I believe you. I see you. You are here now. I'll stay with you while you return. Do not rush their re-entry. Do not demand narrative. Let them breathe. Let them blink. Let them remember where their feet are. Only when their sense of place begins to return can language come with it. Only then does nowhere begin to dissolve. Final thought. Nowhere can be charted. I'll end with this. If you've been there, if you've known the disorientation of trauma, then you are now qualified to speak from the land of nowhere. And if enough of us speak, then nowhere is not quite nowhere anymore. It becomes mapped, not healed, not fixed, but named. And naming is power, not over the trauma, but over the lie that says, you're alone. You're not. You've just been out of nowhere. And you're not the only one.